entrepreneurship less of a taboo. I think that is one of our agendas as well. Now we'll have Mr. Rajesh Abaji. Rajesh and I, we share a common alma mater. So anything interesting that he says today, me, along with a couple of other KGPNs here, are going to claim partial credits for that. Mr. Raj. So, Mr. Rajesh, but on a very serious note, you have solved one of the most complicated problems and then scaled that product nationally, which is, I'm sure, very inspirational for a lot of founders beyond metros. So,
Solving.
So for a founder who's building out of, say, Vizag or Vijayawada and wants to scale up from tier 1 and build to national and global markets, what do they do to do it without relocating?
Yeah. See, I think as Lokesh Garu was saying, right? I mean, it's been like 10 years. It's the 11th year we're building BlackBuck, and I was actually working in Guntur for 4 years before I started BlackBuck, and I think this links to the question which you are asking, right? That probably imagining to start up in Guntur is hard because you, like, let's say, most of us, probably, like, my parents, I was from an agricultural family background. Like, so by the way, you use the word Srikakulam in your opening talk. I am from Srikakulam. So you're saying that a boy sitting out of Srikakulam, can they imagine? Okay, I'm a boy sat out of Srikakulam and have been able to imagine. Wow. So what I was trying to say is that, most of us are from either service families or are from, like, agricultural backgrounds in this part of the, Andhra, right? For us to really imagine how a dhanda runs versus, let's say, when people are from family business backgrounds, it's actually very different. And the next breed of entrepreneurs and the generation of entrepreneurs are actually very much mission-driven entrepreneurs. I have found very, very less percentage of people who say that, they're starting off, just because they want to make money. I think it's always been driven by purpose. And what that does is that that actually creates the next step to be very, very vague. They don't know what is actually the next step. That was, for me, while I was based out of Guntur, right? And the only, simple thing for me was to essentially step out and take a relocation to Bangalore so that I could, like, interact with entrepreneurs there. And this, I'm talking 2013-14 ecosystem, where probably you can compare that with, maybe today, Vizag, or, maybe 1-2 years, before that. So, and there were hardly companies which probably would be like $100 million valued, right? And if you're $100 million valued, you're like one of the big boys on the Kormangla street, right? So that was the timeline where, I sort of relocated there and did. So to answer your question, Dhatri, indirectly, I think most important to build for the globe from India. I think it's largely more to do with aspiration. It really doesn't really matter whether which city you are in, right? Once you've cracked the code. Assuming you've cracked the code and you want to really build for the whole world, you can sit out of here and build for the whole world, right? What's really important is if we can be in the ecosystem of Vizag and how can we crack that? And this is what I tell some people is that Bangalore has been an ecosystem where I never had to take out a flight to sort of, meet an investor. Investors used to essentially fly down. So I think capital is one of the very most important ecosystem enabler which we need to solve, because capital is also a validation for the entrepreneur. Let's say, assuming I'm an entrepreneur, I'm building a problem statement. Now, I drink my own Kool-Aid every day. I think whatever I'm building is the best. The most important test is when you go and tell a person that, hey, I'm building this. Would you like give me, a few lakhs of rupees which I'm going to invest and burn in my company? Are you okay with it? Then the person says no, right? That's when you get to know that, okay, I'm not probably building the right direction. So capital generally is a very strong validator of what you're building. And the second biggest thing, which I think Vizag should probably never ever have any problem with, because, which I think yesterday Honorable CM also was mentioning in his, statement that, globally 1 out of 4 people is IT in Indian, and in IT 1 out of 4 is like Andhrites. And even at BlackBuck, I think 40 to 50% of the people in technology are Andhrites, right? So I think Vizag, you will not have a talent density problem. I think if people you find, would be like far richer, would really want to work from this particular place, I think that's the second biggest sort of enabler. And in these enablers typically are launched onto a platform which I think Andhra is very blessed with, because I think this is probably the probably the first government and the people like you, Lokesh, I've spoken to who understand what is innovation, who understand what does it take to build companies, who understand how to create change. He mentioned one statement in his opening speech. We will change the laws, in line with what entrepreneurship needs, right? It's a very heavy statement to make. And I think if the intent is like that, Vizag has a platform which basically is really, catalyzing and lubricating this entire ecosystem to build out. And I think the parts which I talked about, I think capital, which probably is again a network effects ecosystem. I think that's something which probably can easily be solved by, by the frameworks, by the two people sitting on the right and left to me, right? And yes, so I feel the critical mass has to be solved. Maybe we need those, 10 success stories. If that happens, I think